How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of a little podcast I like to call Ghoulish. I am Max Booth, an undead host, and on today's episode of the program I am talking to Sofia Ajram about the afterlife, not before life, not present life, but post life, after life. What happens? We get down, we investigate what the heck is going on after you die. That's the episode that you are about to listen to right now. Now, Sophia has a short story in the new anthology we published over at Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. The anthology is called Lost Contact, and I highly recommend you pick it up. I think it's a good book. We put a lot of time in making this book as good as it can be, and I'm stoked that Sophia has a short story in it. So go buy it. Lost Contact. Go on over to perpetualpublishing.com. Or if you don't want to type Perpetual Publishing, you can also type Ghoulish Books. Both of those websites are the same thing. So type whatever you want to type. Who am I to judge what you type? I'm no judge. I'm a podcast host of a podcast called Ghoulish, which you are listening to right now. Today's episode, The Afterlife. Let's get right into it. Now, for anyone listening to this episode hoping to find some type of education on the philosophy of the afterlife, I have to add a disclaimer. This is a comedy podcast, and there's no way we're going to do like a deep dive into every version of the afterlife people believe in, because I don't know if you know this. I just found this out. I just went to Wikipedia like 10 minutes before we were going to do this episode thinking, okay, what's up with the afterlife? It's a really long page and I did not have time to read it. There's lots of afterlives. Many.
There are.
Do you have any hot takes on the afterlife?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you're asking. Like, what do I want to happen? What I think is going to happen? What's probably going to happen? Like, there's a lot of different angles here.
Let's do all three of them. Let's walk through this. What do you want to happen?
I like some form of reincarnation. I think it's sweet to think that your energy goes somewhere and gets redistributed. There's a kind of beauty in that like cycle. Yeah, I don't love the idea of like a heaven and a hell. Anything that's sort of linked to eternity is really scary to me.
If you could reincarnate into anything, what would you want to be?
Maybe this is because I was just listening to like the fungus episode, but I just want to be like a spore hanging out at the bottom of a tree and just like hang out in the breeze. That seems really fun.
I would love to be the god of a bunch of ants. That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when people talk about reincarnation, I don't know this. Like, do I save all my memories from past lives, or just like, do I get like hints? Like, if I see like a big dolphin in the sea, I briefly think, wait a second, this seems familiar.
There was like a movie that I watched about that recently. I think it's called I Origin. It's by Britt Marling, who does like a lot of sci-fi, and long story short, they're like trying to figure out whether or not reincarnation is a thing, and I don't want to spoil the film, but something happens and kills one of the characters in the film, and then by the end they find someone else that has the same phobia as what killed that character,
Yeah.
and you're like, are they the same person? She got eaten by a shark and now she's fucking scared of sharks.
Do you have any like unique phobias that if we were to meet someone after you died who also had that, we would be like, oh, well, that's obviously Sophia.
I have submechanophobia, which is like pretty distinct. I mean, there's like a whole subreddit for it now. So I'm like, I found my fucking people.
What's
But
that?
it's a phobia of man-made machinery, mostly
Oh,
underwater.
oh,
But there's like different types. So like some people are really scared of like the sunken Titanic and it's all old and it's rusty and you don't know what's in there. That doesn't bother me at all. It's like the fucking pump inside a toilet tank. Like it's the most bizarre shit ever. Like the pool drains, or like
yeah.
going to the pool vacuums and shit like that. Like I don't know. It's
What about it is like scary to you?
I don't know. I like deep dove into it, and my brother has the same phobia. So I
Yeah.
like in that subreddit, I like to go and look at pictures and see like which one of these frightens me and which one of these does absolutely jack
Yeah.
shit. And the ones that always frighten me, I don't know. I think it's the like distorted look of what's underwater, and then it probably fits in also with what's the phobia where like all little dots, like little holes,
Like
freak people out.
like ellipses.
Yeah, well, grammaticophobia. No, there's like a specific phobia where people are freaked out by like holes, like
Dots. Yeah.
wasps and shit like that. Yeah,
I think it begins with a T, but I don't know what it is.
trichophobia. That's
Maybe.
right, close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like that must fit into it because pool drains and stuff. I don't know. I read Guts by Palahniuk when I was a kid, and that also fucked me
I
up.
was about to bring that up because that's what came to mind as soon as you said it.
Like that just fed right into it. So I'm like,
Yeah.
great. Never stepping foot in a deep end of a pool ever again.
Before you read that, had you already experienced this phobia, or did this really kind of bring it to life?
Yeah, what's weird is I people like often ask me like, did something happen to you when you were a kid? And I have this really vague memory of almost drowning in a pool, but every time I spoke to my mom about it, she was like, that never happened to you, that happened to me when I was a kid. And your grandfather was like off by the pool like smoking a cigar because it was like the fucking 1950s and he didn't give a shit. And then he's like, oh my kid fell in the pool. And like I don't know if I was like remembering a false memory or if she had told it to me and I had like internalized it as my own memory. I don't know. So
I wonder if kids like take memories from their parents when they're in the womb, and like sometimes they like distill them into their own brains as they grow up.
yeah, like something else must go through beyond just genes and stuff, right?
I'm no scientist, but I think that's 100% correct. So
yeah. Between you and I, like
yeah. Okay, so that's what you want to. So
philosophical.
that's what you want to happen. What do you think happens?
Probably the more cosmic horror-y side of things, where it's like you're insignificant and nothing happens and the world is indifferent and like I don't know. There's a lot of cool concepts about what might happen, but I don't necessarily want. Like I read a short story recently. Well, I guess it's a novella. It's called A Short Stay in Hell. I don't know if you
I don't know
this
that.
one.
Who wrote that?
It's so good. It's by Stephen L. Peck, and it basically takes the concept of the Library of Babel from Borges, and which is like supposedly there's a library full of books, like hundreds of thousands of like millions of books, and they're all gibberish. It's all just like a mess of non-words and like grammar smushed together. And amongst those books, one of them is the story of your life. But there's so much out there that like, fuck man, to even find a book that has one coherent sentence is like you'd be looking for forever. And so in this novella, basically, it's kind of funny. Everyone goes to hell if they don't subscribe to one particular religion. And the one particular religion is like Zoroastrianism. So there's like a demon in hell that's like, oh yeah, sorry, you didn't subscribe to this like one old like religion. Like everyone just shows up here and like we decided what to do with you. And the main character is like I don't know, I guess he's like a book nerd, and he's like, oh, you love books, okay, I'll send you to the library then. And so he's stuck in this library, but there's like a shitload of other people, and it's just like a giant spire that just goes on forever.
That sounds
And
awful.
yeah, and you're like, okay, like how bad could it be? How big is it? And like the monotony of it is what really freaks me out, because it's just like it goes on forever, and like it might not be eternity because you could find the book, but it's damn well fucking close.
Yeah. Do you think it's scary not knowing if you will end something infinite, or knowing that is infinite?
I feel like knowing is worse. Like,
no hope. Then you have no hope.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, there's the what is that, like the determinism versus free will concept that goes on in like time loop stories and shit like that. And I know you were talking about like Oedipus Rex in a recent episode.
Yeah.
And like, is it worse to know what your fate is and then still go through with your fate, or is it better to just like not know and have it happen? I'm like, knowing is fucking twice as bad.
It would be awful. I mean, what do you think my fate is?
Well, I don't know. Like, you went full ghoul. You even got the tattoo.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
You're representing. Look at that. That's a good look at that.
It would be pretty hilarious if I quit the podcast now. Well, I'm done.
Like branded.
It does look like a giant advertisement at my own. Yeah, that's okay though.
Yeah, that's a win-win.
I mean, for those listening who might not know, like back on episode 100, I did die, and I was reanimated within that same episode. So did I experience the afterlife in those brief moments of being dead? I don't know. I have no memory of it. But right now, I mean, you could still say I am in the afterlife because I'm not alive, but I'm not dead. So it's really complicated. Is there any like afterlife theories about being undead? Any zombie ghoulish stuff that I don't know about? I need help.
I don't know. I guess like, other than the whole brain in a vat thing, I have some diagnostical questions for you. Like, I'm sure you've been over this before, but in terms of like ghoulishness, what's like, you thirst for flesh? Do you sleep? Do you remember language and your name and the people that you love? And
I find that the middle podcasting I do, I'm able to keep track of like language and like who I am. But if I go a few weeks without doing a podcast, I begin kind of just like losing my memory. So I have to keep doing the podcast. So I may just go back to being completely dead. I do not sleep anymore, but I also wasn't sleeping that much when I was alive. So not a big difference. I thought I was craving human flesh. I had a cannibal expert on the podcast, and she gave me some advice. So I went and tried that. I didn't talk about that on the podcast because I thought I might get arrested, but it didn't like help. I still have that like this hunger inside of me. I'm not sure what to do about that. Someone suggested recently, because the way I died, it was through a poisoned egg. Someone suggested maybe the egg is hatching something inside of me, and I am perhaps pregnant with something. That's a possibility. I haven't exactly explored yet, but maybe one day I'm going to just pop something out of me, and that will be an interesting turn of events. I don't know. What do you suggest?
Wow, so much to take in. Like, what happened when you died? Like, were you sacrificed? Like, what? But how did you come back? You know what I mean? Because
so
in order to resurrect, was it like a necromantic thing? Like,
we did resurrect me on like live on the podcast. So to briefly summarize, what happened was someone, we don't know who yet, someone did assassinate me with an egg. They mailed me an egg, and they know if I see an egg, I'm going to eat it because that's what I do. Killed me. My buddy Andrew, he took my body. He Googled how to revive a goldfish, and he followed those steps on me, and involved a lot of blowing into certain areas of my body. I came back. I was like, oh, what happened to me? And he was like, you died. And I said, well, that's odd. And so now I'm just undead. Now, what happened between dying from the egg and coming back to life, I'm not positive. When I try to think about it, it's mostly like I see shadows. I see what could possibly be chicken feet, but I don't know, like, will those come from? I just see like chicken feet going fast in the shadows. So I don't know if chickens dragged me through some type of afterlife hallway, or if perhaps I took on the POV of a chicken. Maybe I was briefly reincarnated as a chicken running into the night. That's a possibility that I haven't. I mean, so how do I confirm any of this? Do I talk to somebody? Do I like get hypnotized by someone? I don't know. Maybe I do need to get hypnotized. I don't know anyone who does that.
The hypnosis thing might be a good, way, like a good place to start. But I don't know. You seem pretty lucid for a ghoul. Like,
yeah,
usually ghouls are kind of like a little mindless. But would that make Andrew like your necromancer, and then would that make you a lich, and then could you control other ghouls with your lich powers? Like,
I haven't tried that. What is a lich? I don't know what this is.
a lich is like an undead that still has like sentient thought, and so you can usually go and it's like an MLM scheme where there's like a lich and he can control all the other little ghouls to do his bidding.
Are you telling me I could profit off of this?
Yeah, big time.
I hadn't thought.
I don't know why you're not already thought of that.
I don't know. I guess I've been just too busy doing this podcast, and I haven't had much thought to like think outside of that, because you don't profit from a podcast. That's something I discovered when I was still alive. And I can't stop now because I did get tattooed, and that would be really hilarious if I stopped. Yeah, it's like the same thing with I can't stop publishing because I run a press called Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing, and I would just be I would be the joke of the day on Twitter if I closed shop. So I'm stuck for the rest of my undead life.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I could like convince other people, perhaps listeners to the podcast, to join me in being dead. Maybe that's for a different time. Maybe not. I don't know. If anyone wants to also be undead, I guess write into the show at ghoulishpod@gmail.com, and we can talk this out. Now,
have a little cult or club. They don't call them cults.
An organization, a company, that, and I think of everyone as a family as well. Now, we had three things we were walking through: what you want the afterlife to be, what you think it's going to be, and I do not recall what the third thing was. Do you?
What I'd like it to be, what I think it'll be, and then what it's gonna be. You know
okay.
I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to know your thoughts. Like, where do you fall?
We feel this ghoulish business. I always thought, I mean, mostly like what you think, that is just nothing. Really Legati-esque, just, I guess, I mean, lights out, I'm done. Now the insects can feed on my body. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the idea of just, okay, I am given life for a short period of time, and then I am recycled back into the ground. And maybe I grow into a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of trees, let's talk a little bit about. You see that? Yeah. That's something I've discovered now, being undead. The ability to transition any sentence into a different topic is just immaculate. Amazing. I was never like this before. I would always just have to say, like, say if I was talking about a banana stand and I wanted to talk about cell phones, I would say, so the funny thing about banana stands is, I don't know, cell phones. Let's talk about cell phones. And it would be an awful podcast. But now I have this great transition ability, and I'm trying to use it to the best of my, podcasting skills. I don't know how to say sentences.
Great now. Responsibility,
Thank you. So, trees, you wrote a story that's in Lost Contact. Please tell the listeners about it.
Thank you. I wrote a story in Lost Contact called The Arborglyph, and fun fact, the car accident that happens at the start of the story is actually based on something that happened to one of my siblings. But not to the extent that I take it in the story, but Essentially, there are two boys that are friends. Perhaps they have crushes on one another, and they go for a little joyride. They get into a car accident. They crash into a tree. One friend is so distraught about, his bestie being dead that he goes to someone that he knows, and he resurrects his friend. And what comes thereafter is a series of bizarre events whereby his friend slowly but surely starts to meld into whatever it is that he makes contact with.
So you say that the opening accident is based on something that happened with one of your siblings, but where does the rest of the story come from? Because I think it's a pretty unique idea.
Thank you. I always really liked the concept of going back to some sort of primordial soup. I'm a big fan of Evangelion, and I know that they discuss that a lot in the series. And the first time that I read Jeff Vandermeer's Annihilation, the concept of being kind of re-amalgamated into the world, but in a way that was PC, really freaked me out, because we usually think about it as like, oh, the soul departs the body and then you just kind of disperse into energy. But like, what if little parts of you get stuck in little parts of something else? Like, what if that process gets fucked up? That really freaked me out. And so I thought about what would it be like to, I guess, become one with whatever it is that you make contact with, whether it be an animal or a tree, or after that, like inanimate objects and things like that. And at some point you would get stuck because you came back and you weren't supposed to. So it's trying to like suck you back into where you were supposed to go.
That's terrifying. And for some reason, it reminds me of like what happens to a potato if you leave it for too long, like behind a fridge or something, how it just continues growing into whatever it comes across. Or like when you see a vine just take hold of like a phone line and it just milges together. It reminds me of that process a lot.
Yeah. Jarring visuals.
That's what we do in this podcast. We create visuals because this is an audio format. So what is anyone looking at as they listen? They're looking at the images we paint in their brains.
That's right.
Yeah. And am I correct? This was your first published story?
It was.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, it was such a pleasure to like hear from you. I've been a big fan of your publishing and this podcast for a couple of years now. So I was just elated when
thank you.
got the call back. So yeah, thank you for trusting my little baby story.
It's really good story. This anthology has published a few like Phil's Time published writers, and I'm just blown away every time someone tells me that, because like nothing in this anthology feels to me like, oh, this is like a debut story. All, especially the ones that will debut stories, they all read like as like seasoned pros. It's really odd and cool to like discover this.
Yeah. I mean, like overall, the anthology's so many solid stories. Like
mostly, besides that one we won't talk about.
No, we're not supposed to talk about that one.
I had to put that one in because of a contract dispute.
The business. That's how it is.
Okay, now I don't know if you saw this, but on the Ghoulish Twitter account, before we began talking, I posted, I have a podcast question for everybody. What do you think the afterlife is? And I've gotten dozens of responses, and I'm just going to begin reading some of them.
Read them out.
And we can talk about what they think.
Hell yeah.
So Miguel says, it's like a switching off. As quickly as that, nothing happens. Well, probably, most likely.
I like read this is gonna sound so crypto bro-y, but like I read an interview with Steve Jobs like before he passed away, and they were like, what are you seeing? Because he was like, oh god, oh my god, wow when he was on his deathbed, supposedly. And he was like, oh, it's not like an on-off switch, we just kind of like fade into something else, and that's why I don't put an off switch on my Apple devices. That's why like it's all one button. I was like, oh
wait, is that true? He promoted his like his shit as he was dying?
Fucking legend. Capitalist to the core.
That's like the destiny of anyone who's like gets too like caught in like hustle culture. Like as they'll die and they yell like and subscribe my YouTube channel. Leave a
You
review.
gotta respect the hustle, I guess.
I guess that's disgusting.
Not like tell my wife I love her. No, none of that.
No. Tell my wife to update my blog. I used to think it would be funny, but I haven't done this because I often forget things. But to have an ongoing post scheduled, like on my blog or maybe on social media, accusing someone of being responsible for my death. And I would reschedule it every week just in case I did die that week. So it would come out like, I don't know, like Sofia killed me. Like 2 days
Just
after
watch
I died.
the Twitter mayhem unfold
Yeah, but
from the skies.
I don't know. But I'm convinced I would forget immediately and it would just get posted and I would still be
Yeah.
alive and I would be a fraud and I would have to kill myself to live up to social media's
Yeah,
expectations.
that's
of
the
me.
only thing you could do, really, honestly.
So speaking of coding, I mean, we will kind of talking about, I guess, no, we won't. We will talking about Steve Jobs. Does he
It's okay.
code? He doesn't do shit. He's dead. Someone, so this is Drool. She says this. Someone I know who coded said it was nothing at all. So then I began thinking about a nothing. We'll still listening to our own consciousness go on and on. How does this person know it's nothing? This coding geek.
Right?
I don't know.
He knows too much.
Yeah.
The CIA would like to know your location.
Someone else, this person's handle is Real Sonic Dangel. Is
Reliable.
the only thing that we know Phil is waiting for us is the Valhalla of our loved ones' memories.
I like that.
Yeah,
There was-
sounds sweet.
I don't know if you ever watched American Gods.
No, but I read the book.
Well, you're one ahead of me because I'm a
Okay.
poser. But I know that at least in the series, it's like whatever you believe in is what it is.
Okay.
And belief in gods or believe in certain things that happen to us after we pass gives it strength.
Yeah.
And so one of the characters passes away and she just believes that like nothing happens after we die. So she gets ushered over by death to like, I think it's a hot tub with like the lid on and he pulls the lid off and there's nothing inside and he's like, climb in.
That sounds
hop
pretty
on in.
nice. But
yeah,
I
like
that.
you're like, nice hot tub, nothingness, love it.
What if you believe that everybody else is wrong? Do they then have to like, oh well, I guess we have to take away? Is that like a afterlife paradox?
I feel like that's one of those like genie things where you're like,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to make that wish. That's on the no list.
How many times do you think that happened with a genie before they had to make that rule, like with the genie incorporation, like this?
At least once. Every time
Yeah.
something happens with a client and I gotta add it to, no wonder my jewelry list, like terms and conditions is so long, is because
Yeah.
every time something happened, I had to add it in.
Like what are we talking about here? Like what kind of
Just in
rules
terms
do
of
you have?
cancellation policies and
Yeah.
exchanges and things like that and customizations and trying to use discounts, on when there's Black Friday and there's already a discount, like
Yeah.
we'll try to do all sorts of shit.
Yeah, like we had to quickly make this change on the book website because we had a discount going and they tried to use that on the gift card we have. I was like,
Yeah,
no, you
see?
can't fucking do that. So before we continue, let's talk about this business that you run because I don't think we've talked about it on the episode before. So tell the listeners about that.
Oh, well, I guess my day job is that I am a metalsmith and I run a fine jewelry business, which is mostly bridal wear, but there's some other more fashiony jewelry in there that's like tarot cards and a little bit esoteric. I have a couple pieces that I've made in collaboration with some horror authors like Kathy Koja, who was just a guest on the podcast not too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have another one that I did with Cassandra Kaw, based on their novel that came out last year.
How do these partnerships happen? Like, do they reach out to you and go, "Hey, can you make something for my upcoming book?" Or
It's a bit of both. Like initially, what I was doing was when COVID hit, I had to like furlough my team because our studio was so small that it was a health hazard. So I was like, okay, I'll just make all the jewelry myself all over again. And like all of a sudden, you're wearing like 50 hats, and I was driving myself crazy, just like polishing everything and shipping everything and doing all these, like, there was like 4 or 5 people that worked with me, and then all of a sudden it's just me. I
Oh
was going
man.
nuts. So I was like, okay, I was reading The Cipher at the time, and I was reading Nicholas Day's Grind Your Bones to Dust, which
Hmm.
is an excellent, excellent novel. And I was like, oh, I want to like try to make a piece of jewelry that incorporates these stories. So I started doing those, and then it kind of picked up. Um,
Cool.
and yeah, from there, I guess some authors like caught wind of it, and now I get people requesting on the other side, which is really fun because I love the industry. Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite book or like Phil you would love to like design something, Phil?
I got really lucky in that ever since I was a teenager, I was obsessed with House of Leaves, like unhealthily
Yeah,
obsessed with House of Leaves. It hit me at like the right teenage year
me
when I was
too.
on Live Journal, and I was like,
Yeah,
this is like this like I want to snort it up. It's like
yeah,
amazing, and I somehow like Mark Z. Danielewski, who's the author, caught wind of like the artwork that I was like making. And I reached out to his like atelier and I was like, hey, if you guys want to do a collab.
yeah.
And we had a Zoom call together, and he was like really cool and like poetic on the Zoom call. He was like, oh my gosh, like the lines of like the building behind you where you're sitting on the call like look so cool. And like he was so interesting
Yeah.
and just like very cool guy. And we ended up making together. I don't think I have one like immediately that I could show you, but it doesn't matter because it's a podcast. So I will make up the image in your mind because I'm a writer. There is a matchstick that is half burnt, and it has some engravings on the side from some lines in the
Yeah,
book that have like a kind of tie-in.
that's cool.
And yeah, that was a big pleasure to make. So I would love to keep doing projects like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like you're kind of the same way. Like
I don't know
wherever
what
you can
make.
get your
Oh,
hands in. No, but in terms of like the different avenues that you can
yeah,
take for creating like stories, I guess.
I think so. I try to. I haven't read House of Leaves since I was a teenager, but I definitely loved it. And like I keep thinking, should I revisit that book? But I'm afraid it's not going to have the same magic as it did when I was like 16 and like stayed
Yeah.
up till 5 a.m. trying to like decipher text and like a reflection. Like I'll never
It's a
recreate
moment in
that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom's down the hallway yelling, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm trying to read."
You're like that fucking meme, like connecting all the
Yeah.
dots on the wall. Like,
That's what that came to mind immediately, like seconds before you said that. The "It's Always Sunny"
yeah,
image.
exactly.
Yeah. I
No,
would.
I know what you mean. Cause like there's some books where like I had them on my favorites list for so long, for like over a decade. And then friends of mine would come over and be like, what do you recommend? And I'm like, oh, this book, like I read it when I was a teenager. It's fucking
Yeah.
amazing. And then they would go home and read it and be like, what is this garbage? And I'm like, listen, this is my recommendation from when I was 16. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the memory of like that it's still good in my mind is what you're getting recommended.
Yeah. Just like the memory of you drowning that does not exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
All comes back
just
around.
all right. Let's go back to some of these afterlife
Yeah.
tweets.
I'm
Okay.
curious.
Vivian says, I don't know if I believe in it, but I always thought that if there was an afterlife, it would be a place with all of your greatest memories, like a greatest hits kind of thing. They all exist in one place, and everything and everyone that ever made you, they feel loved, and they also exist in this place. Well, that's a pleasant afterlife.
That's nice.
It's a
Yeah.
nice thought, but I think she's wrong.
Maybe it's like Animal Crossing's realms, and you can just go into other people's cool memory, like hard drives, and go look at their shit from time to time. Hop back over to yours.
Can you explain what Animal Crossing is? Because I never hopped on that game, but it sounds like it's
Give
some
it to
type of.
die.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't.
You sounded like a pro for a second. Okay. Okay.
Look, I think you make a little planet that's like a. I just imagine what's the King Kai? Did you ever watch Dragon Ball Z? Am I making too
Nah.
many nerdy references?
You are making comment references to things I do not know about. Dragon Ball Z.
I'm sorry.
The afterlife.
Little teeny tiny planet, and then
Okay.
you make it look all pretty, and
Yeah.
then you can go visit other people's pretty planets.
All my friends growing up watched that show, but it just never I was too
It's iconic.
busy. I was too busy trying to understand House of Leaves, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do that.
So Betty, Rocksteady, she came in. I knew what she would say because she's always talking about how life is a simulation. So maybe we should get into some simulation theory. What do you buy into that? How you just take off like the VR glasses and you go and play a new game?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that stuff is interesting. You can't like account or discount it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it's also like, would it matter if we were in quote unquote the Matrix? Because life that we're experiencing now is still being experienced by us. I don't know.
Yeah, like it. I don't think it would matter that much. I
Yeah.
mean, I understand sometimes why people like. Sometimes you do like you see something that can only be described as like a glitch in the universe. Like that's not how anything's supposed to be. So I do understand how many people do believe in the simulation theory. I don't disbelieve it because I find like with any of this stuff with the afterlife, I think it might be kind of like foolish to discredit anything because how can any of us know?
Yeah.
And
I don't know,
plus,
man. Like the universe is so fucking big.
yeah,
Maybe there's a god that's just playing with us on a petri dish. You don't know.
maybe. I hope not. That
There's
sounds mean.
I pulled out a bunch of relevant books in case I needed to reference them like a smart person. Have you ever read DMT, the spirit molecule?
Nope. Tell me about it.
Do you know what DMT is? I mean, I can explain it for
Isn't
listeners anyway.
Let's pretend I do know, but explain it to the listeners.
Let's pretend that I know what I'm talking about and I'm not
Yeah.
half making this up. So take this with a grain of salt, listeners, but it's supposedly a molecule that exists already in our bodies, but that can be found in certain root barks and things like that. And it supposedly gets released right before you die. So when people have near-death experiences, this is what is causing whatever visuals or hallucinations that you're seeing. And essentially, this is very illegal drug in North America. And in the 1990s, this scientist, I guess, went to Mexico, as you do, and he decided to do clinical trials and give people injections of DMT to see what would happen. And what's weird is that people independently were seeing a lot of the same shit.
Like what?
One of the things that struck me that was recurring was little alien people that when they speak, they like can speak architecture into existence. So just like blah, 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 and then like a nice beautiful castle would come out, and then you could do that too, and they'd be like, go sing, and then you would sing, and then like
fuck?
cool shapes and shit would come out. And then there was one girl, I'm pretty sure it's in this study that I read it, but there was one woman who did it and she got really freaked out. And then what they would do is like over a series of a couple weeks, give them higher and higher dosages to see if it would make a difference for like breaking through.
Yeah.
And they gave her a higher dosage, and these little creatures were like, we let you go. Why did you come back? And that really freaked her out because supposedly this is like what's released in your mind when you die. So she's like, did I just like have a near-death experience and come back and I wasn't supposed to? Like, I don't know. It's interesting.
I don't like any of this. I'm trying to like, I know you don't have like it in front of you exactly, and you're talking from memories, but like, what the so you talk and say a building comes out. What does that mean? Like like a cloud of a building? Are we talking just fucking bricks shooting out of a mouth? What's going on?
Yeah, I was imagining more like the cloud. Yeah, like you know when they have like seances and then there's like the sheet of ghost snot, like maybe that. I don't know.
Okay. That sounds crazy. But now that's what I believe now. I'm changing my answer.
There was another guy who like he saw this like giant warrior woman and she was like, what the fuck do you want, puny man? And he was just kind of like in awe, and she just kind of like fishnuttied him and he just went like flying into the cosmos, and then he woke up. Interesting.
That sounds like a lot of fun though, just to be flicked off into space like snot.
Have you ever done like mushrooms or psychedelics?
No, I haven't.
Would you? You know, straight edge.
No, I would. I don't know how to get them. I keep asking the listeners to podcast to mail me
Mail you
psychedelic
some. Yeah.
mushrooms. Yeah, but no one is. So I don't know. I've talked about this once on a episode I did with Cody Goodfellow about astral dreaming.
Ooh.
My biggest like experience with any of this shit, I was 17, and my eldest brother was on probation, so he could no longer smoke weed, so he was buying what was called King Crypto. It's like a synthetic weed type of
Early
thing.
game.
Like you buy at the gas station. And so him and I had some of that, and then we began driving away someplace, and I basically lost all feeling in my body, and I felt like I was paralyzed. And like, so while he's driving me to the hospital,
Oh my God.
I completely like lose consciousness, and it felt like I was just existing in this like cave, like this really dark place for a long time, and then I woke up in the hospital and they had the fucking, what do you call those shock things?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I don't know if they'll call it now, but yeah, so like they got me back.
Hit him again.
So maybe I was dead then. I don't know.
Yeah. Everything since then is just a dream. We're living in your mind palace.
I might still be driving to the hospital. Yeah.
That's some Jacob's Ladder shit.
I do like my main memory was jumping awake and doing like a pea soup projectile across the
Exorcist.
and just hitting this nil standing nil. I felt so bad. Just right in the fucking face.
Sure, it's not her first time. It's fine.
Yeah. But that's my only experience with like anything crazy happening because of drug related. What about you?
I have taken I cannot say when, but I have taken two types of things. I did salvia when I was like a teenager, and I was trying to impress someone at a party. And I'm a small person, like I'm 100 pounds. And I was like, yeah, I'll take like 4 hits of this. And I fucking astral projected and thought I was a letter in the Simpsons logo. And the television was trying to, the P, I was like doing weird shapes with my body in the basement, and everyone was staring at me. It was like a party. It was super awkward. But more recently, I had a mushroom trip for the first time. And again, I was like, go big or go home. Like, I'm not half-assing this. I don't want slightly nicely visuals. I want to have ego death, and ego death I had. It's not like at all pleasant. It was so scary. I like time fractured, and I thought I was stuck in my friend's childhood home. It made no sense. And I was like, I can't get out of here. I don't know where I live. And like, I forgot everything about like who I was and that like planes existed and shit like that. And so I think it just like wiped me out, and then it started to slowly come back. And it was like, yeah, planes, man. How crazy is that shit? We can make YouTube videos. And like, I was just like amazed and like sobbing, like with joy, like, oh, we could do so much cool shit out here. Like the world is amazing. It was like a 6 hours of that, but it felt like a fucking eternity.
Would you do it again?
Maybe with a little buffer between now and then, but yeah, because like it was fucking super scary. It was like demonic at first. I was like, I want to get out. I want to get off this ride. And like, she's like, sweetheart, like it's been 30 minutes. Like, I was like, oh my God, this feels like it's been 4 days. But
what a great advertisement for psychedelic mushrooms.
If death is anything like that, I don't want to. I'm gonna be alive forever. I'm gonna be on the Ghoulish team. Just give me a poison egg.
That's fine. I do need a street team.
Yeah. So I'm there. I'm down. Give me a call.
I guess a Ghoulish street team would be just an army of undead ghouls just roaming the streets.
Fuck yeah. Do we get like cool jackets with like something on the back? Kind of like when you go to bowling or like Hell's Angels style?
They'll say VIP only.
VIP only. Ghoulish. I like
that. It wouldn't make any sense, but that's what it would say. All right. Let me see if I have anything else of interest on this Twitter feed. Jeremy Robert Johnson just quoted an Aesop Rock song about getting fed to pigs. I dig it.
That sounds fake, but okay.
Most people just say, I want to stay in a place with my family and loved ones. But I mean, it's a nice thought, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
a lot of people think they get fed by insects, which is also a nice thought, and most likely is true.
Yeah, you become the seed from which the plant grows, and then you can go in the wind, and you're part of the ocean. And did you ever see Beach House?
Beach House,
yeah, like cosmic horror movie.
Yeah, that came out a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Yeah,
like the end shot of that scene was like, it hit me in the same way that Saint Maud hit me, where it was just like one shot brought this movie from 4 to 5 stars, where it was just so existential, where it's like, you are meaningless and life is nothing and we are nothing but a blip in the like cosmos.
Now, speaking of Saint Maud, that's how I want to go out.
Oh, just like
fucking
psychotically immolate yourself.
Yeah, and then people could go back and listen to this podcast, and they can follow like a clear like path of how he lost his fucking mind. It began when he branded himself the name of the show.
The beginning of the end.
After that, it was just he thought Joe Rogan was insane. Well, just wait. Just wait till you find out what he was encouraging his listeners to take. Okay. Anything else that you can think that I know you brought a stack of books. Anything else you wanted to get into with that?
Oh man, not particularly. I have this one book called The Path: Metaphysics for the 90s, and it's written by Richard Matheson, who like most famously wrote I Am Legend.
Yeah.
And I found this at Strand Bookstore in New York. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I had no idea he wrote. It's kind of nonfiction. He's like, he dies and then, or he doesn't die. He like meets death on like a walk in the park, and then over the next like course of a week they have conversations every day. And death is like, you fucking plebeian, like, you idiot human, you are nothing, let me tell you what happens after you die. And he like goes through exactly what happens over the course of their walks and says like what happens when you die. And it's basically like reincarnation and karma has a lot to do with it. But then he says some problematic shit where he's like, yeah, like anything shitty that happens in your life is punishment for what happened in your previous life. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't know that I subscribe to that, Mr. Matheson, even though I highly respect you and your work.
How does death convince this guy that he's death?
Oh, that's a good question. Like he knows all this stuff that he's not supposed to know. You know?
Okay, so he could have just hacked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, in the 90s. Yeah, he could have had like a PI, maybe.
Yeah. That's crazy though. I didn't know he wrote that.
So weird.
I don't think most people know about whatever that is. That's crazy. Was he just insane? I didn't know that.
Maybe he lost it in the 90s. I don't know. I know a lot of his like great work came out in the like 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant man, but it's like, what happens after you die? What is afterlife? What is heaven really like? What is hell really? What conditions did you preset in your life?
Do you think Richard Matheson would have been into NFTs?
No, you know what? Because he fucking hated all the adaptations of I Am Legend. He like notoriously, like when the Will Smith one came out, I think he just passed away before, and he was like, fucking good. I'm dead, so I don't have to see this shit. Like
and subscribe. Goodbye.
To like and subscribe.
Pick up my book.
Buy my books.
Death. Review my books on Goodreads. Goodbye.
OG legend. We love him.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's crazy. I'm glad you brought that up. Do you have any other like hidden books by you? Like, did Stephen King write something about the nothingness I don't know about?
No. All that I have here was some relevance to your ghoulishness, called Do Zombies Dream of Undead Sheep? And it's a neuroscientific view of zombie brain and like what happens to your brain to make you into a zombie. Like what real shit in the world exists.
Yeah.
Like all these different symptoms that you would have to turn you into a zombie, where you would like forget your family's faces and you'd be hungry for meat and all that sort of stuff. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't forgotten any faces, and I thought I was hungry for meat, but I don't know what I'm hungry for. I haven't found the thing that quenches it, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to just begin trying to digest things, and maybe I have a tapeworm. I don't know.
Heard a lot about a lot of weird tapeworm things recently. So
okay, elaborate. What do you mean?
Is it like Eric LaRocca's story?
Oh,
that
yeah.
haunts all of our souls
Yes.
for all of eternity.
Yeah. I thought you meant like in real life, like some stuff's gone down.
Oh no. Yes, that I'd like to
Okay.
share publicly.
That's all right. Okay. I think that about does it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure.
How can people find you online? Oh, thank you.
How can people find me online? I'm on Twitter. I'm quite active on Twitter. Sofia Ajram. Sofia Ajram. And yeah, that's about it. I make some jewelry. Sophia Zakia is the name of the jewelry line. I do have some spooky things, some Lovecraftian jewelry, some jewelry based off of horror movies, like some Benson and Moorhead films and things like that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm here and around.
And that was Sophia talking about the Afterlife. Go pick up Lost Contact, available at the places you buy books. And go buy my new novel, Maggot Screaming, at ghoulishbooks.com. Leave a review of the podcast at iTunes. It needs more reviews. Go leave one. Leave it. Don't make one and then take it with you. You make it, you drop it, you abandon it forever. You leave it in the place where reviews rot. iTunes. Go do that. And, I don't know, go do something for yourself. Go give yourself a gift. Go buy a big sandwich and eat it.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Max.